Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we're going to have a look at the latest GFS, GEM, ECMWF, GFS ensembles. We'll have a look at the mean CET from the Met Office, and then we'll have a look at the live radar as we've got some heavy rain spiralling around in southern England. Now do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you do like and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and make sure you do follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description. So currently we're having a look at the latest GFS, and you can see over the top of the country right now we have a trough of low pressure. Now the centre of this low is in the Channel at the moment, and it's spiring this occluded front around southern England. Now we've seen about 2 inches of rain in some southwestern parts around Exeter, Somerset, so about 2 inches of rain overnight yesterday into today. It's starting to ease now, but there still is some rain to come, and that occluded front is going to be sweeping northwards, and there could even be a few thunderstorms on its northern edge, as it provides instability further northwards. Now this low is going to slowly sweep away over the next sort of 12 or so hours, and then we open the door again to another area of low pressure to move in through Saturday into Sunday, and then sweeps through on Monday. And it's not really anything too deep, but it's sort of a trough, so it's going to provide some rain, some showers, potentially some thunderstorms perhaps, but it's not going to be too severe, and the winds aren't going to be too gusty either. As usual with low pressure, there is going to be some winds around, but it shouldn't be anything too significant, and there should be convective showers around, but still plenty of sunshine. Now if we do have a look at the air mass, you can see coming in from the west at this time of year isn't particularly cold, or from the northwest it's not particularly cold, but it's not very mild either, so temperatures are going to be pleasant if you're in the sunshine, but where you do have the rain and any winds do pick up, it will still feel pretty cool. But as we move through, we continue having these troughs coming in off the Atlantic. Nothing deep again, but just providing instability, so there's still going to be some convection showers, and perhaps some longer spells of rain. But as we head towards day 10, we do start to see blocking reintroduce itself towards Greenland, parts of Scandinavia. We do start to pull in an easterly wind, and this is where models sort of diverge a little bit. And you do start to see on this GFS run, we do start to pull in, we do have temporary blocking before a big area of low pressure comes in and piles up some quite warm air temporarily for the south before sweeping through. By the end of the run, again, it's still westerly based. So we have been looking at recently, there's a possibility that it does go a lot warmer towards the last 10 days of May. There's still the hints of that on this GFS run. You can see the warm end is very close by, and it does get close to coming into the UK, but never really quite establishes itself. And we just need more strength high pressure. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with that. But it does generally still look pretty unsettled. And we just need to hope that that higher pressure can build in within that warmer air. We can get a bit more of a settled and warmer pattern. If we have a look at the GEM, if we run through that, very similar over the next few days to the GFS. Again, low pressure milling around, these sort of troughs circulating around a main low towards Scandinavia. We pull down a bit of a northerly wind a week tomorrow. Nothing too cold, but still we'll feel chilly coming in off the North Sea. And then as we head towards day 10, we see a trough low pressure develop out in the Atlantic. Higher pressure over towards Iceland, and what this starts to do is pull up some southerly winds from down sort of the Azores area and down towards Spain. Now at this stage it's nothing too warm, as there's not too much warm air associated with this low, but if we could block this sort of pattern in with this area of high pressure over towards Iceland, we could be going warmer with that. However, if this low does start to slide through, suspect the winds would come more from a northerly or northeasterly direction as those winds slide through with that blocking, and it could send some colder air southwards. So it's in the balance on the GEM, but it is definitely a little bit different to the GFS and does have more potential for it to go a bit warmer. As if we could get that Euro high building, then we could perhaps be going a bit warmer. So if we run through the last few hours of that low doesn't move too much, and you can see that blocking is holding it off, and we are starting to pull up some warmer air, so it'll be interesting to see whether that does come off. If we now have a look at the ECMWF, you see very similar pattern over the next few days, with those sort of troughs milling around, northerly winds move in, and then quite a vigorous low pressure system moves through a week tomorrow. So perhaps we could see quite a deluge with that. If you look at the upper airs, could drag a bit of some warmer air up from the south, but nothing too significant with that. But as we move through, the ECMWF goes into a very northerly phase, complete opposite to the GM, with that low out in the Atlantic replaced by a high and northerly, cold northerly winds plunging southwards. Now, it's nothing too cold to give widespread frosts or any significant snow, but it could give some wintry mix over hills, and could give nights where temperatures go down quite low. And if we have a look at the 850 HPA temperature deviation, you can see temperatures getting around to between 6 to 8 degrees below average, so very cold conditions on this ECMWF. So it does show you, beyond 7 days, it's all really still in the balance. It's really what happens with that higher pressure and where it does builds in towards Greenland and low pressures out in the Atlantic. It could start to draw in southerly winds, where at the same time a slight orientation shift could bring in wet and windy off the Atlantic. Or if it just builds out in the Atlantic and towards Greenland, we could be going into a northerly phase. So it'll be very interesting to see how this does develop. If we do have a look at the GFS ensembles, you can see a big split on the ensemble members now. We did think the last few days that there were quite a few warmer ensemble members. There are still quite a few warmer ensemble members, but at the same time, there's some colder ensemble members developing as well. So uncertainty has again increased beyond sort of the 7-day time frame. It's really up in the air what's going to happen. In the shorter term, temperatures look around average to maybe just below average, feeling more pleasant in the sunshine, feeling cold in the wind and rain. You can see a lot of frequent rain spikes, not masses, not like massive sized spikes, so not symbolic of any massive deluges, but still frequent rain and showers moving in. You do see there was a few ensemble members going a lot colder. That perhaps could be lower pressure coming in, and that brief northerly wind we saw on some of the operational runs with that northerly wind before low pressure does come back in. But you can see generally in the longer term it's very uncertain, and it'd be very difficult for me to pinpoint exactly what's going to happen. You can see some ensemble members going 10 degrees, 850 HPA, which could give mid-20s quite widely, whereas others going down to -4, -5, or -6 at 850 HPA, which would bring very cool conditions quite widely as well. So very interesting to see what's going to happen with this. So really want to keep an eye on, as I suspect the pattern will definitely start to resolve in the next day or two. It's very unusual for the weather to get within the 7-day time frame, and for us not to have quite a firm idea of what's going to happen. So it'd be very interesting to see whether the warmer ensemble members win out, the colder ensemble members win out, or we do stay just in the middle, similar to what we have at the moment. If we first now have a look at the central England temperature before we have a look at the radar, you can see so far May, the CET has been 8.8 degrees, which is, if you look at the previous months, quite warm. However, for May, it's 1.6 degrees below average. So currently the anomaly is the coldest anomaly we've had so far this year, provisionally to the 12th, of course. But at this stage, it does look like that won't be going up too much over the next few days, or at least over the next couple of days. It does look like it will probably inch up again to around -1, but if we do start to bring those northerly winds again, I do suspect it could continue to stay around 8 or 9 degrees for the CET. Now this is cold, and it's on the back of another cold April. Now March was 1.5 degrees above average, February was 1.4 degrees above average, and January was minus 0.7 degrees, so anomaly of 0.7 degrees below average. And interestingly, the CT to April so far was 5.47 degrees, but the provisional CET anomaly up to the 12th of May, so it hasn't, it officially only factors into the end of the month, but provisionally to the 12th of May, the anomaly is 0.01. So actually this year so far, and if we take the anomalies as quoted down at the bottom here, the anomalies are for the period 1961 to 1990, we are average temperature-wise to compare to the 1961 and 1990 average. And if we have a look at this graph right here, which shows you the mean central England temperature for the last sort of 350 or so years, compared to the 1961 to 1990 average, you can see in the past probably like 15 years, we've only had 2 which have been below average, and then maybe 3 or 4 that have been between 0 and 0.5. And you see the last sort of 5 years or so, most have been around 0.5 to sort of 1.5 above average. So you can see currently, if we did plot this month up to 12th of May on the CT chart, you can see we would only be average, which, given sort of the global warming pattern we've been having, is fairly quite unusual. And it does show you, even though, yes, we do have global warming, generally the planet is warming up, it still doesn't mean that it's going to be hot years. We can still get colder temperatures, we can still get cold anomalies, and we can still get colder weather. And yes, climate change is meaning warmer summers are more likely, but having a look at this, we could be in fact heading for a colder than average spring, and following that pattern could be a colder than average summer, and probably will be wetter as well. So it'll be very interesting to see if this pattern does continue, because it will just prove some people some sort of common misconceptions with climate change, that some people think climate change is going to mean every year is going to be 35 degrees in July, whereas actually it just increases the chances. It doesn't make it a guarantee. And this spring so far being quite cool and cold, with snow in April and 1.5 degrees below average in May so far, just shows you that we can still get pretty cold conditions. So it's just interesting, and I'm going to keep up to date and on tabs with this over the next sort of few weeks and the next few months, and then heading into next winter as well. Because if these sort of anomaly patterns do tend to come together over months and over years, so it'll be perhaps interesting to see if we do maintain this sort of colder than average northern blocking sort of pattern over the next sort of 6 to 12 months heading into next winter. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. Now finally, we'll have a look at the live radar. We'll just briefly refresh this. And if we get it to load back up, you can see where this sort of trough of low pressure has been. You can see it's centred currently just out in the English Channel, just south of the Isle of Wight, and you can see the occluded front wrapped around it. Now, the heaviest rain was sort of in the Exeter, Somerset region. There's still some showers and some heavier showers, perhaps even a few thunderstorms popping off around there. And I'll show you the fallen precipitation, or radar estimates of fallen precipitation, in a minute. But you can see that weather front is now moving northwards, has passed sort of through the M4 London area. Now that's had quite a deluge this morning, heavy rain, not too much in the end, maybe a few millimetres or maybe 6 millimetres or so, sort of quarter of an inch. But it's starting to clear now, but this rain is heading northwards, and you can see on the northern edge where it is providing instability, a few thunderstorms potentially popping off, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. This rain is heading towards sort of Wales, northwest England, even into Scotland is seeing some heavier showers and thunderstorms, and I do expect this weather front to continue heading through the Midlands into northern England. And if we do continue to run it through, this sort of estimates from the Weather Channel of general positioning of the showers and the occluded front, you can see it's continuing to spiral northwards. The low will eventually clear away, but for now it will continually send showers and rain into northern England and the North Midlands, and you can see eventually it will start to stagnate and clear away. So if you are under this rain band, it's going to be pretty miserable and cold and wet and damp. However, either side there is currently some sunshine and some generally pleasant conditions. So yeah, just watch out if you are planning to do anything over the next sort of over this evening. Just watch out for some of these showers and this rain band as well. So finally, we will have a look at the latest, well, the past 24-hour precipitation. If we run that up to currently, you can see where we've seen the heaviest rain, where that weather front really just sat over southwestern parts, part of Somerset, Exeter, and you can see sort of the sweet spot saw a couple inches of rain, so very significant conditions was seen there. I think official rain gauges from the Met Office saw about 60 or 70 millimetres of rain in some spots, and there's been some heavier rain in parts of Wales and central southern England as well, as that weather front is spiraling around. But yeah, nothing really on what we saw in southwest England, so very heavy rain there. Luckily, again, as I said in yesterday's videos, river levels aren't too high, soil saturation isn't too high either, so although a lot of rain fell, it won't, in sort of the longer term, it shouldn't provide too many significant impacts, as the rivers and soil should be able to cope with this amount of rain. If this again were in the winter, I do suspect there would have been more warnings in force. There was a yellow warning in force for this rain band. It was in force at 6 a.m. this morning, and it was in force until this afternoon. And it just, it was an update from the Met Office because they saw the rainfall totals were totting up. It is a bit of a annoyance sometimes in the Met Office when they do these sort of updates. They do sometimes do it very late, and it does sort of defy the point of the update, as it's like halfway through. Most of the rain has already fallen by the time they've issued the yellow warning, so it's a bit kind of a bit of an irrelevant warning, and it doesn't. And posting at 6 a.m, many people probably won't be seeing it. So, I mean, they have to do it if they see the impacts are going to be significant. But I just think they're better off issuing a yellow warning early and then sort of cancelling it during the event than not issuing one, and then during the event it is a bit more intense than they first initially predicted, and then issued one during the middle of the night. So anyway, that's just my one annoyance with it. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe and I'll see you again for another video soon.